Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina. Welcome back to those returning, and hello, and welcome to those who are here for the first time. This is a very interesting time, as always. I have been experiencing incredibly unique events, as always, in awe of what's happening through me. I can say to me, but that just really doesn't work anymore. I'm discovering so much about energy and how our lives are. I could use the word affected by energy, but directed by energy, how our lives are comprised of energy, and how everything that we are and that we do and that we think and that we feel is connected to our energetic field and affects it. And so you hear how thought can create your reality, and it is no small statement to say that, because it is absolutely true. And there's so much more to that, though, that is so crucial to understanding our lives in the human form and how we are energetically driven, and how the quality of our energy or our vibrational frequency is affected by absolutely everything. I've had some remarkable experiences in the last couple of weeks that have led me here to the microphone today that have really been stunning. And I want to talk about that. And as always, I try to come onto the mic without any ideal or ideas about what I'm going to speak about. It really allows for the most authentic flow of energy through my body, and allows whatever is meant to come through this open channel of my intuition to express itself naturally on this microphone. And this is why I was gifted with this idea or intuitive nudge 2.5 years ago to start this podcast. It is the most ideal medium for anyone, for me, to express myself in a way that is not affected by other variables that can affect you when you write or when you do something that is not directly expressive. So this, for me anyway, is the most authentic way for me to speak from my heart, from my energetic body. And I appreciate that more and more every day as I learn more and more about my energy and who I actually am in this human body. I've talked a lot lately about full embodiment of my true self, and I have been on a quest, guided by my spirit team, my soul family, to embody this being, this incredibly powerful cosmic being. And I've learned so much about myself that I've shared with you in the last few episodes, and I've gone through recently, and I talked about this in the last episode, Birth of a Galaxy, how I went to a breath experience with this gentleman, Igor Siberia, who I did an episode with. The last episode, forgive me, the one before was Birth of a Galaxy. The last episode was my interview with Igor. I was so absolutely entranced by what I went through, and speaking to him, of course, and learning more about breath and how it is integral to our ability to manage our energetic body. There's so many connections here that I won't go down that road, but speaking to him really opened me up in ways that I couldn't have otherwise. And I understand that there are no mistakes in my life, that whomever I cross paths with is someone I'm meant to have an interaction with, whether it's a brief one or a long term. I'm meant to learn something. And this is my journey. It's all of our journey. But for me in particular, as I'm able to witness it as it's happening and not look back and say, oh, now I see what happened, I can witness it in real time and appreciate what's happening. So at that breath work class, I talked about how I was able to release an energetic blockage, and that blockage was not able to be expelled through my practice of emotional purging. And I wrote an article called The Emotional Baggage Handler, which I'll talk about as often as I can, because I discovered during my healing or my awakening, however you want to label it, after my divorce from my karmic soulmate, that I had a mechanism in my body that is absolutely designed to expel emotional debris and traumatic imprints. And through that practice, I was able to remove a large amount of trauma and pain and old karmic patterns out of my body through my emotional channel. This class, however, was like going to a specialist to have something removed, which is exactly what happened. This gentleman, this breath guardian, who I love the way that sounds because he absolutely is. His quest is to teach people about breath again, to get back to the basics of breathing. And it's so incredible how impactful it is. And listen to my last episode, which is an interview with him if you're interested, but there's so much there. But it was like going to a specialist to have a cancer removed. And once that happened, a whole other part of me opened up. And I realized that this embodiment was continuing, and I understood more on a cosmic level what was happening to me as I was being prepared for this next phase in my life, this timeline shift that I spoke about. During this time period, this was probably nearly 4 months ago, I cut ties with someone who I had a long association with. It was not easy to do. It was very difficult for me to actually, it was one of the most difficult things I'd ever done. But when I cut that connection, I did it out of a sense of urgency because I understood on a energetic level how my association with this person and the energy field of this person was inhibiting my ability to continue to ascend out of the lower frequencies of my former life. I had no idea what this was. What do you mean? What this means essentially is that our connections with other people have an energetic impact on us, whether we want it or not. I'll use myself as an example. When I was married to my karmic ex-husband, I was always chasing him to what's been known to me now through my guides as to bridge the emotional gap between us. He was an emotionally vacant person. He didn't have access to his emotional body. So he used me basically as his energetic source. And this is what vampirism is. This is what an energy vampire does. This is not an intentional act from him. I just want to make that clear. This is who we are in our lower vibrancies, in our shadow selves, when we're walking our dark forest in the 3D matrix. We are acting out our karma, and we find resonant partners to do that with. I was his resonant partner. He mirrored the parts of me that I needed to heal, and I mirrored the parts of him that he needed to heal. And whether he is healed or not is not my business at this point. But he did a good job with me. And through that mirror, I was able to see myself and then begin to heal and purge these old patterns, these karmic patterns, this karmic debt out of my body. But my association with him has an energetic element that has detrimental consequences. And what I mean by that is, if I would have stayed with him energetically, and this doesn't have to be physically, I'm out of his physical field, I'm no longer in his life. But if I'm thinking about him and I am mourning the loss of him and I am grieving this loss beyond the reasonable amount of time, if I am melancholy over the connection with him, if I'm nostalgic of that relationship, I am feeding that energetic connection. This is something I did not understand until I was told pretty clearly by my soul family that this energetic connection lingers. And because I am on what's referred to as a sacred mission in this lifetime, I had to cut all low vibrating associations. And when I say low vibrating, I don't mean to sound condescending. It's not better or worse. It's two different places in the evolutionary journey. I spent 58 years in the lower frequencies, in the 3D matrix. I am not judging, nor am I comparing myself. I am in a different place. And yes, I use the word ascend and I use the word higher vibrating, and all those are true because they're physical realities. They're not terms to reduce the value of anyone else. It is just to acknowledge the value of and the quality of the vibrancy that I'm in now. And this is something I've earned over this lifetime, actually over many lifetimes. So when I say that, I don't mean any disrespect. I have most respect for anyone still in their lower vibrancies. So what I'm saying is by maintaining that energetic connection, even unwittingly, we are allowing that leak of our higher vibrating energy into these lower vibrating connections, which lowers the vibration of our energy. So what I learned during all this time is that by letting go of this connection, and this is somebody I cared for very deeply, I had to do it. And I was told over and over why, that when I associate my energy with someone who is still struggling in a lower vibrancy or vibrational quality, frequency, dimension, however you want to put it, I am putting my energy in that field, which gets automatically lowered because I do not have the ability as a higher vibrating being to raise your frequency unless you embody that. So what I had to learn was that by me staying in this connection with this person that I let go 3-4 months ago, I was risking my own vibrancy. I thought that by staying in this person's life, that I could have an osmosis effect, that because I was an example of overcoming heartbreak and overcoming my lower frequencies, that I could somehow help by my very presence. And this is something I had to learn, and it's a critical lesson for me because I learned through several readings in the last couple of months why it was so important. And there was one statement in one message that I got recently that really helped me to understand, because I dealt with a lot of guilt. This was a family member. I dealt with a lot of guilt about breaking this connection because I didn't feel connected to this person. I just felt drained. And I this has happened with other of my family members who I haven't had any association with in years. But this one I cared about more than the others. And I just wanted to try really hard to be there and to be this person I was supposed to be, this person that I thought I was meant to be in this person's life. But what I learned, and this is from such a high level, like a cosmic level, why I had to let that go, and this is so important for me, I think, for me to share, is it was put to me this way in a message. It said that the universe does not see or doesn't know what was said or who did what. All the universe sees is the energy, and that energy had to go. And that's really what I had to hear in order for me to let go of the guilt of moving on. It's almost like a survivor guilt. And not that she is any trouble. She's not in any trouble at all. It's just that she's living her life in the frequency she's meant to live in right now. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's none of my business. So when you look at it from that perspective, by me interjecting myself into her life, assuming I have the power to change anyone, is really kind of a condescending perspective. It really is not respecting the differences in our energies and in our journeys, in our evolutionary journey. It's not up to me how anyone else lives their life. But what I've come to understand is it's not only about giving her the sovereignty to live her life the way she is meant to live it, with her set of guides and her set of traumas and her set of karma and her set of interactions she's meant to have. It's not just about that, but it's about pulling my energy out of that connection so I don't risk losing what I've established. And that's the part I did not get. And the part I really wanted to really talk about today, because energy is everything. Frequency is everything. The frequency of your energy determines the quality of your life. And again, this is not a judgment. This is just scientific fact. If in my lower vibrancies, when I was the lower version of myself, and I have to use the word lower, there's not a different word. I can say other, that's fine, but it's the vibrancy that, and let me explain this again so nobody gets upset with me. The vibration is lower. It's slower. When you're in your lower 3D vibrancy, you vibrate slower. So everything has more impact. Everything is heavy. Everything is meant to be I don't want to say a struggle, but you're meant to move through a denser energy in order to have these dense, heavier interactions and impacts in order to express and play out this karma. So is the lower vibrating energy. That's why I use the word lower. When you ascend into the higher frequencies or the higher dimensions, your energy vibrates faster. That's why I use lower and higher. It doesn't really mean anything else. And I just want to make that clear. I am not here to boo-hoo the lower vibrancies. My God, I was a lower vibrating human for 58 years. So I want to make that perfectly clear. This person who I care about deeply is in her lower vibrancies. That's it for now. And I hesitate to talk about this because I don't want to talk about anyone, but I have to make it clear that this is a sister and that I had to let go of a sister. And I think it's important for me to say that out loud because we are so conditioned to endure people in our lives. And again, I don't mean to sound negative towards her, and I don't know how else to do this. By endure, I mean lower my frequency. It was described to me this way, that in order to be around certain people in my current life, I have to close my heart. And what I know that to mean is that I have to lower my frequency. It's just like diving in the water and holding your breath. You can only hold your breath so long when you're underwater because you can't breathe underwater. So you have to get out from underwater eventually in order to breathe. Use that as the example. When I go into a lower frequency environment, and this is, I did an episode called residual energy fields a couple of years ago when I didn't really understand this, about this, how I went into an old energetic field where I used to have my business and I had a physical reaction to it. This is what I'm talking about, only on a more refined level, because I was unaware of it, because I didn't feel bad or I didn't feel a negative impact. All I felt was, and this is how it was put to me, if my throat chakra is affected, and this is very important, especially for me as someone who speaks, this is my vocation. If I'm around someone where I can't speak freely about myself without reducing someone else or diminishing someone else or confusing someone else, then I'm not in an energetic field that I should be in. And this really helped me to understand it's not just about enduring someone on the outside externally. It's not, I mean, there was nothing wrong there there's nothing there for me to endure. It was the way I felt. I had to close myself down in order to be there. I could not speak about who I was. I couldn't feel the things and speak about my feeling. There was no resonation. And that's the only word I can use to describe the connections that no longer align. There's no resonation. That frequency does not match that frequency. So there's no attraction. So it's a struggle for me to stay in that energy. And I describe this as feeling awkward or quiet or even uncomfortable. And these are all conversations I had with my sister to try to help her understand how I was feeling. But the lack of connection, which was never established, even as children, because of our upbringing, there was just nothing there. It was going through the motions to have a relationship that I didn't feel connected to. And this is, I think, the trap we all fall into. This is the human condition. We're conditioned to support each other no matter what. But the truth about energy is that if someone is struggling in their darkness, and I say struggling, I mean navigating their darkness, and not every one of us are meant to overcome our lower vibrancies in every lifetime. I understand it's taking me many lifetimes to do this. And that's why some people pass away still addicted or still with the behavior that they've had all their lives, which is affected by their karma and all they attracted into their lives. This is why we bury people every day who are sick. This is what's meant to be, though. This is their journey. It is not a mistake. So when you look at it from an energetic perspective, and this is from as high in the cosmos as you can get, these connections have an energetic consequence. So even if it's a sister or a mother or a father or a child, a friend, a lover, it doesn't matter. The universe does not see the face. The universe doesn't see the interactions of who's right and who's wrong. The universe only sees the energetic frequency. And if I am spending all of my time underwater trying to hold my breath, I am not able to ascend. That is the message that I had to understand. That my frequency, as it rises into these higher dimensional realities, as I'm readying to move into a new timeline, which means that my entire trajectory will change. I cannot carry the weight of a lower vibrancy in my body. It is just not physically possible. Because the higher my energy vibrates, and when I say mine, I mean ours, the higher my energy vibrates, the less debris it can carry. So again, I'll use the same analogy as a balloon. You fill a balloon with air, it ascends. You take the air out, all it is weight. So I am ascending because I am imbued with this higher frequency. It is like air in my balloon. When I connect with lower vibrancies that are not ascended, I descend. And that's as simply as I can put it. No offense to anyone. This is strictly an energetic consequence of remaining in relationships or associations or even in memory, thought of someone who you walked away from because the resonation was lost. Or you're discovering, maybe you're with someone right now that you're discovering this misalignment and you're struggling with staying. That's your sign. I'm not telling you what to do. You have to work that out for yourself. But my point is our energy speaks volumes all the time. It affects our body, our feelings, our mood. If you're always in a bad mood when you're around someone, if you're always struggling to express yourself, if you're always trying to bridge the emotional gap, which is what I did with my ex-husband. I was always chasing him down. Why don't you see me? How can you treat me that way? Why is it that what you do doesn't match what you say? Why are you not who you say you are? When you're asking those questions, there's a reason for it. That means that you are vibrating or beginning to vibrate faster in your body, which is your soul saying, okay, kid, it's time to go up. And yes, you're going to have to leave this association, relationship, connection, circumstance, situationship, job, whatever it might be. You have to leave that in order to ascend. That's what we are tasked with in this lifetime, is listening to our vibration, which is our intuitive channel that speaks to us. And when that intuitive channel is clear and the body is clear, we now live navigated by our souls. And I describe my life as putting my hands behind my head and my feet up, my legs crossed, lying on the energy of my soul's journey. I no longer have to make any effort. The mantra that I have adopted during all of this is, what's meant for me will come to me. I don't have to struggle for anything. And this was tested over and over in my body. It was first tested when I left my business. Oh my gosh, 2.5 years ago, when I walked away from my business because my ex-husband was my partner. And I knew, it came a moment where I just knew I had to go. And of course, I received confirmation by way of tarot guidance that said, why are you somewhere you don't want to be? I spoke about this in many, many, many episodes ago. And I struggled with this idea of leaving my business. Why do I have to leave? I'm the one who built this. This is mine too. Why do I have to walk away? What am I going to do at 58 years old? You know what I mean? All the fear and the insecurity and the no, I can't. And I spent an entire evening after hearing the message, why are you there if you don't want to be? It was so simple, but so powerful. But I knew it was an activation for me from my soul family. This is how they work with me. And I mother effed all that evening about, why do I have to leave? This is mine. I did this. And then by the morning, I'm like, what are you doing? Of course I have to leave. Of course I have to leave. I went in the next day and I told my ex-husband, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And I left. Easy peasy, right? I had to trust that the universe had me, and that what I needed to show the universe was that I trusted. That is the key. And in the beginning, I really didn't understand any of this. I just did what my heart begged me to do. And I walked away from my business not knowing how I was going to make a living. I had no idea. But the message came that you will always have what you need. And I trusted that. And it all worked out. I can go through all of it again, but I described it in, I think, Emancipation Day. I can't remember. I think that's the episode I described all this. I was fine. The universe provided. I had an income I didn't know I was going to have, which was a payout from the business that I didn't know my ex-husband was going to agree to, let alone offer me, which he did. You have to understand, he was a karmic soulmate. He was designed to push me to the edge and then kick me over. But once he did that, he made it easy for me to go. It was amazing. Even when I spoke to him, and I don't think I've ever said this before, when I was leaving, I said to him, because he knew about the podcast, I told him about my website. I said, I'm writing about you, but I'm not going to talk to anyone you know about you. Even on my social media where he was connected, I said, I'm not going to talk about any of this. I'm not going to do that to you. And I said, but I am going to write about this. This is way before I did the podcast, actually. It was a year before I started the podcast, so I didn't know I was going to do this then. I said, but I am going to write about this. And he said to me, write about it. You need to, and I know the book is going to be published. That's what he said to me. He understood profoundly, at a level, I think, beneath even his consciousness, what was happening between us, how I was meant to take my relationship with him and everything that I learned, including who he was, which I've talked about at length, as the beginning of my vocation and speaking about my life. He knew. And when I met with him what was in June, I think it's November 24th, so 4 or 5 months ago, when I met with him and I said, I just wanted to tell him that I appreciated him and I told him I loved him. He said something about my work and how it was going. I said, well, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast. And he said to me, I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear what I might hear. With a smile. He understood. And I believe that this was probably channeled through him because his higher self is the reason why my higher self and him got together in the first place and had this karmic, devastating relationship. So removing myself from that energy was a leap of faith that I trusted that I was to leave, and it all worked out beautifully. The next big leap of faith for me that required my trust, and these are tests that the universe was giving me, to test my ability to trust. Am I resolute in this, or am I iffy? And I described all of this as it was happening throughout my episodes. But the next big test for me was, okay, it's time for me to get a job. The payout is gone. I have a little bit of money in my savings. I have my retirement, which is not enough to last my entire lifetime. I thought I had to find a job. And I remember in a message in the original tarot that said, you're going to be needed somewhere for a couple of years. And I talked about this also in another episode. I assumed, because I'm wired to be productive, this is my whole life. I've worked my whole life since I was 14 years old. My first job was at Burger King while I was still in junior high. I've worked my whole life since I was 14. I didn't know anything else. You work, you trade your time for money. That's how it works. I didn't know anything else. So the next task was, I was trying to find a job. I put a social media professional profile out there with all of my experience, and I'm going to get a job even though my heart wasn't in it at all. I applied for all these jobs. Nothing happened. I just was losing all this energy, and I'm just keep going. You can't go into your savings. It's too early. You're only, well, how old was I? 60 years old, 59 years old. What was it, 2 years ago? I don't remember, a year ago, whatever it was. I was 61, I think, 60, 61. I'm like, I can't go into my retirement yet. I can't do that. And so out of fear and the need to be productive, I looked and looked for a job until one day I lost all energy for it. Literally, my energy was turned off. I opened up my professional social media page, and my energy just dropped. I had to like stop and take a deep breath. I went and laid on the couch the rest of the day. I went to bed early, and it wasn't until the morning that I realized that my soul was saying, no, you don't need to do this. It's not where you're needed. Follow your heart. And what I was arguing about the whole time where I was looking for a job was, well, you keep telling me to follow my heart. It's with my girls. How am I following my heart? By finding a job. Who is it out there that I have to spend 2 years with? I don't know who this person is, but I need to find them through a job. No, 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 no. Following my heart was as clear and pure as it possibly can be. It was with my girls. And I instantly knew that that's what I was meant to do. And I dropped the job search, even though I didn't know what was going to happen. I remembered you're always going to have what you need. I dropped the job search. I changed my whole profile to match what I'm doing. I'm a writer and a speaker and a podcaster. That's now how I put myself out into the world. That's who I am. I don't need a job. Not anymore. And this is just me. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm on a very particular journey that's meant just for me. And the guidance that I'm receiving is very particularly just for me. So I'm not ever telling anyone else what they should be doing. My only point here is to tell you that clearing your body, allowing your intuition to speak to you, and then laying back in the energy of your soul's purpose is what living effortlessly is. And something else I've learned recently, and by the way, to finish that story, of course, I've been provided for. I won't go into detail about it. It's magnificent, the story that I have, but I don't want to go into detail. I don't think it's that important. The point is that I have everything that I need. And I trust that for whatever long term that I'll be here, I will always have everything that I need. Even though I am in my retirement now, I spent my savings, I'm in my retirement. I don't worry. It's completely gone. The need to worry and control money is completely gone. I absolutely trust. And this is what the universe needed from me. Test after test after test. Are you ready to trust? Until you're ready, you have to have more lessons. This is how it works. So yes, I'm trusting. And the first time it was not easy, but I knew intuitively that if I didn't do it, I would have to endure my life longer. And I didn't want to endure anymore. I knew that I was meant for more, for so much more. I had no idea how much more. So in that trust, in the universe now seeing my resolute trust in what is meant for me will come to me, then everything gets relaxed. I am allowed to live without constant lessons. I'm still being tested every day. I'm not going to say I'm not, because this is what the human life is for. But the tests now are opening doors that are in other dimensions. This is other dimensional stuff. It's no longer, can I learn a lesson to get me to this next same dimensional part of my life? So, for example, I learned how to love myself. I learned unconditional love through this incredible heart that I've been gifted with because of this being that I am. I can see the entire world and love everything and everyone. I don't need to know you. I know that you are on your own journey, and that is all I need to understand. I don't have to be in your journey. I don't have to be connected to your energy field. I don't have to be a part of your darkness to appreciate you. The way I honor you is to leave you to it. And this was a hard lesson for me, first with my ex-husband, then with my sister. But these are two primary relationships that I had to let go, which broke apart the construct or the belief system that who the relationship is at a human level is more important than anything else. It is absolutely not true. Our energy is all the universe sees. And I'm writing an article about this right now. Of course, it's relevant. The universe only sees our energetic frequency. That's our signature. And the soul controls that. The soul decides what vibrancy our energy is based on the lessons the soul brought into this lifetime to learn. So your soul will keep you in a lower vibration until those karmic lessons are learned, until that karmic debt is paid. And yes, who we are in former lives matters. Who we are in this life matters. I've been told over and over in recent tarot readings from my soul tribe that because of the person that I was throughout my life, I'm being ascended into these dimensional realities where I can experience life a way I never could have before. And it's described as true love, material success, and living in a place that I call home, which is an island in the middle of nowhere. Among many, many other things, this is a lifetime I could not have lived on the trajectory I was on before. This is my soul jumping timelines with this lifetime because I've earned the right to do that. How did I earn the right? The way it's described to me is because of my heart. Because even in the most desperate times, I never reduced myself. I never acted out. I didn't treat people who treated me poorly. I didn't treat them poorly. I just knew better. I knew it wasn't me. So when somebody hurt me, I didn't try to hurt them back. When my ex-husband devastated me, I didn't try to hurt him. I begged and begged him to stop. But I internalized all of it. I didn't set his car on fire. I didn't tell his family what a POS he was. I didn't project on social media all my pain. I didn't do any of those things. I quietly took it all in. And then I imploded, don't get me wrong, but that's what was meant to happen. The point is I never allowed who I was at a core level to be reduced by anyone else's behavior. And it just comes down to, why would you let someone else's reckless heart damage yours? It really, when you look at it from a higher perspective, it doesn't make any sense to give someone that power. So I guess at an energetic level, at a core level, I never gave anyone the power to reduce my vibrancy that was already low. And because I was kind and caring and compassionate and empathetic, which is the way I'm wired, I graduated to this dimensional reality. And I'm not special. This is just really a testament to the energetic consequences of our actions, our thoughts, our feelings. When we are trapped in these karmic or toxic connections, and we struggle and struggle and struggle to get out, and we don't understand why this person or situation or circumstance doesn't understand us. Why aren't you changing? Don't you see I'm struggling? Oh my God, it's a mirror. You're not meant to see them, you're meant to see yourself. That's how this works. And when you can take that in and swallow it like the biggest pill you've ever had to swallow, then it expands in your body and you start to see. And that's what I'm talking about. I was just thinking about it this morning. It's like the whole facade falls away when you look at yourself instead of everyone else and you say, okay, I'm the reoccurring component in all of these events in my life. I am the consistent figure. I am there's another phrase for it. I can't think of it. I'm the same in all of these. Why does this keep happening to me? It's because there's something in your body that needs to be resolved. You're attracting this on an energetic level. And this was so brilliant to me to be able to understand that it's not about the person, their face, your relationship with them, who said what, who's right or wrong. It doesn't matter. It is the misalignment of energy that matters to the universe. That's all it sees. Another thing that I went through recently, I'm still going through actually, was described to me as a clearing of my subconscious. And after I went through the breath work gathering or experience with this brilliant young man, I purged what I would describe as an energetic cancer. I don't know exactly what it was. It was, I believe, in my root chakra, which is where all the trauma, the majority of trauma I experienced was sexual throughout my life. I was sexually molested by my father. I was molested by 2 other men as a teen. And then my ex-husband took advantage of me sexually. This was one of my karmic lessons, one of the things I had to overcome. So most of the trauma I've experienced is in my root chakra. And I believe that that blockage was there that I couldn't remove. And that's what was surgically removed during that breathwork class. Now I'm going through what's being referred to as a subconscious clearing. And this is another fascinating thing that I didn't understand about energy, is I was told that my energy was still leaking into this connection that I had already cut off. And I don't, again, want to say anything negative about anyone. If you can look at it from an energetic perspective, and if you can't, it is what it is. I'm not looking at faces or relationships. I'm looking at the energy. I was told that my energy was still leaking into this connection. I'm like, what are you talking about? I closed this connection as lovingly as I could. Of course, it wasn't reciprocated because of the 2 different places we are. So it didn't end beautifully, but it was closed. But it wasn't. I was still answering texts and phone calls because I felt obligated. I didn't want to hurt this person any more than I already had. But I didn't understand that that energetic thread was still there because I left it open. Long story short, I was told in a reading that something would happen within 3 days that would bring me clarity on this leaking of my energy, and it absolutely did. The next day, the thing happened. I won't describe it. It happened. I understood. I did what I needed to do to close the connection completely. What I needed to learn from this was a lesson that my kindness has an expiration date. It has a natural end, that my empathy doesn't control me anymore. And I did what I had to do to cut this connection off completely. And once that was done, I was told that connection's clear now. But beyond that, which is fascinating to me, and this was just told to me in the last couple of days, that spirit, which is the universe or my soul family, was actually clearing up the remainder of this energetic connection. How about that? This is fascinating to me. That meant that even though I did all I could in the physical to cut this connection off, there was still an energetic trail because there was an energetic an entanglement. And this makes me think of sex, and forgive me for going off course for a minute, and how when we have sex with someone, when we have intercourse with someone, the man enters the woman, and that energetic connection is the most intimate that it ever becomes in anyone's lives. And I'm not judging anyone for anything, but I'm just saying, for me, this has always been kind of something I've known at a subconscious level. because I never could just give myself to somebody because I felt like it. And again, I'm not judging anyone for anything. I don't know anyone out there. I'm just saying that sex is a sacred exchange of energy. And when it is given and taken casually, you are energetically tying yourself to that person. You are energetically tying yourself to that person. And you may not understand it at a conscious level, but what you're doing is you're giving away your energy and you're taking on what could be lower vibrating energy into your body. And this could be the reason why you accumulate this debris that isn't even yours. That you may feel the emotions of this person. You may struggle in the depths of with this person without even knowing it consciously. This is energy. This is how energy works in our bodies, in our human lives. It is all energetic. When you talk to the universe sees your vibration. It doesn't hear your words. Your soul family hears your words. They're here to assist you. Your spirit guides. You speak to them. You figure out how to listen. They respond. That I know. I experience that every single day. I had to clear my body of all the junk in order to hear my intuition, which told me, yes, we're speaking to you, which connected me to Joe, Oreo, the emperor, who I found out is a grandfather, my higher self, and my twin flame. And of course, my girls. This is my soul family. And this is what I was meant to learn and understand and share. That energy is pervasive. We have to truly manage ourselves in a way that is so far beyond our mental and emotional levels that when we allow ourselves to be taken, and I don't mean that forcibly, or give ourselves in a casual manner to someone we don't know, we are risking our energetic sovereignty. It is sacred energy. And this is something I had to learn with a family member, and why it's so important to, with intention, conduct the relationships in your life, and to understand that beyond the belief systems or the cultural norms or the constructs or the religions or the upbringing, the conditioning, all that exists is energy. All that matters is energy. I wanted to share that. I thought it was so important. There's something else that happened too, so incredibly beautiful. I just told you who my soul family is. I mentioned them by name. The one that I didn't know about until recently was my spirit family member, who I've always referred to as the Emperor. And I refer to this family member as the Emperor because in the original tarot, I was made aware who everyone else was. I knew that Oreo was my dog. He was a dog that we had as a family when I was married to my karmic ex-husband. We got Oreo as a puppy for my daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, from a breeder. And I remember taking this little puppy home, this little black dog with a white stripe down his chest, with a huge paws, who laid in my arms on the way home, who we gifted to my daughter, who without thought deemed him Oreo because he looked like an Oreo cookie with cream filling. He was our dog until he passed away at 10 years old. He was a cherished member of the family. And I've never had a dog throughout its whole life. I've always had animals, but we moved so much. My life as a child was so chaotic. Animals just came and went. I never knew where they went. And so this dog was the first animal I've had throughout my life. And I had a very special connection with Oreo in his later years. When he was a pup, I hated his guts. We had an older dog, which belonged to my ex-husband before I met him. And he fought with the older dog all the time. He was a menace to society. He was messy and terrible. And I would remember screaming, either he goes or I go, more than once. But as he got older and my daughter moved out of the house and went to college, and it was just me and my husband at the time, I worked from home, and Oreo laid with me in my home office on the floor on his pillow, and he just became my buddy. And when he passed away, it was the first time I felt loss. And I can say this with all confidence, and I'm going to say something that I found out about myself that I didn't know that I would share, is that I've been shielded throughout my life by my soul and the universe from making deep connections with other people. This is a very unusual thing, but it's an element of my life because I was not to be distracted from my mission. So, what that meant was I've gone through my entire lifetime really not feeling connected to anyone at all, including my parents and my siblings. No friendships that I felt a deep connection to. I've had friends in my life. I'm not saying I haven't, but I've no deep connections, and there's no lingering friendships that are still in my life at all. They're all gone. And this is not a sad thing. The way I look at it is this lifetime was meant for this mission, for this work, for this evolution. And I've had many, many other lifetimes that I was meant to have these deep connections. So I don't feel like I've lost anything. I'm deeply connected to my daughter and my granddaughter, and those are the only two connections I'm meant to have because I'm meant to move out of this timeline into a different timeline. And the way this was put to me is we had to shield you from connections so you would not be distracted from your mission. So I don't have any deep connections with anyone. So I'm able to move into this next world without losing anyone. So I was talking about my dog Oreo and how when he left me, I felt this loss. Like I've never felt it before. And I've only felt it one time since, and it was about a tree that was in my yard. So this is where my connections, my energetic connections are with this gorgeous animal and with this beautiful tree who I believed watched over my family. And the tree was recently cut down during, I talked about a storm in August, it's now November, where this tree was severely damaged and I had to make the decision to cut it down. And I went and spoke to the tree. This is a tree I would talk to all the time. I knew this tree had a special connection to me. And of course, I found out later that it absolutely did. And I'll talk about that down the road. But I felt her absence when the tree was gone. And I still go visit her stump every day. I felt the absence of this dog. For the first time in my life, somebody left my life and I felt it. I've never felt that with a human before, even if someone passed away. My parents passed away. I didn't feel that at all. I was grateful they were just released from their karmic lives, their pain. So I knew who Oreo was. He was our dog. I know who Joe, who is another soulmate, who was a member. I don't want to say that. I don't know. I'm hesitating to say this out loud because people are still alive who knew him. He is a family member of a very close family. I'll put it that way. He passed away in his 30s and he is with us. He's still with us. He watches over the family. So there's Joe, Oreo, and then I know who I am. I'm my higher self. And then my soulmate, my twin flame, John, is the other higher self. The only one I didn't know who they were was the emperor. And I remember early on hearing it was a grandfather, and it just didn't click. I didn't know I know my two grandparents. I didn't have any relationship with either of them. Very chaotic childhood. I didn't really know them at all. I only met my mother's father once or twice. Very rigid man. And I only saw my father's father a handful of times, who he never spoke to me. It was just very estranged, I should say, estranged or strained. So I didn't connect with that. Well, recently I've been getting, this is so beautiful, many, many social media posts about Native Americans, about American Indians. And I'm like, I've always felt a deep resonation with the American Indian because they're earth keepers, they're wisdom keepers. And I've learned this over the last few years. And I have an association with someone on Instagram who goes out and interviews tribal people to spread tribal wisdom. And I support him and I follow him. He's a gentleman in Ireland. And it's called Wisdom Keepers. I guess I can share his Instagram name. And he's a filmmaker. He's Irish. He lives in Ireland, and he films Indigenous people all over all over the world. I don't know where exactly. And they speak about the wisdom that they've been imbued with by the universe, because this is what I learned in my Pleiadian teachings, is that the Indigenous people are gifted with the wisdom of the universe, of ancient civilizations. They hold the wisdom and the connection to Mother Earth. I've always felt a deep resonance with the Native American. And I remember hearing somewhere in my past that I might have a little American Indian heritage. And I always thought that was really neat, but I didn't know anything more. I believe I'm kind of a mutt, my all over the place. So anyway, I'm getting these social media posts about Native Americans, and I'm like, wow, this is just, it's awakening something inside of me. I didn't really know what it was. And I'm getting these messages about the Navajo Desert. They were so powerful. I almost booked a trip to Las Vegas. Honestly, I would still be there right now. I was going to book the trip for this week to spend a few days, because Vegas was a way to go to the Nevada desert, to the Navajo Valley, to see this amazing park. I just felt this draw to go. Long story short, it didn't work out that I went. I lost the intuitive train, and I dropped the idea. But I know it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't meant to go. I was meant to just embrace this Native American ideal. And what had ended up happening through these repeating posts about Native Americans, just random Cherokee, Navajo, the Navajo Desert, which is near the Four Corners, which is a place I'm very familiar with in the desert Southwest. It's where four states corner. It's a very sacred part of the world, of the United States. And there's a place called Chaco Canyon, which is an ancient civilization. There's a rock called Ship Rock, which I have notes on my monitor because I discovered these places accidentally a year ago, and I wrote them down as places I wanted to visit. Chaco Canyon and Ship Rock in New Mexico. It's all right there in the Four Corners. It's Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. And I've always wanted to live in the desert Southwest. My ex-husband and I actually took 2 trips there to New Mexico because I thought I wanted to live there, but there was no industry there for us. We were estate liquidators and auctioneers, and because of the weather, they just had outdoor sales. There really wasn't a need for what we did, so we dropped the idea. But I always felt this draw to the desert Southwest. Well, here we are, coming for full circle, where I'm being messaged with the desert Southwest, and I'm thinking, what's in the Southwest? I need to go. Anyway, I ended up receiving more messages about, and the message basically said, if you feel drawn or encouraged or nudged to research your ancestral heritage, do so. And I instantly knew that I was meant to look into my DNA and to see if there is a Native American connection. And while all this is happening, and this is so interesting, in the same reading, I believe, or maybe one right after, and in these readings, you have to understand, these are social media readings. They're on YouTube. They are viewed by thousands of people. So I'm not paying for readings. I am not looking for readings. These are readings that pop up on my YouTube channel. And right now, because I'm going through such a transition, I'm getting ready to go into this active phase of my life, this new timeline. When I open my YouTube channel on my computer, which is a big screen, every single row has 1 to 3 readings in it that I know are meant for me. This is how active my spirit guides are with me right now, because I'm moving into a new timeline. They're talking to me about my relationship with my twin flame and what to expect, how I am to conduct myself, how critical it is for me to do certain things, to not disrupt what's meant to happen. I know what I'm going to do because I'm being advised to do it in my connection with my twin flame and other things. I could look at 3, 4, 5, 6 of them a day, but I only do one, and not even every day, because I feel like I have to integrate them. I started to say is, if I resonate with the message, I know it's for me. If I don't, I know it's not. Although 99.9% of what I'm hearing now resonates, because this is it's a crucial time. I'm sitting right now between what's called the end and the beginning. This is what I describe as a world between worlds. That's where I've been for the last 3.5 years. I'm getting ready to be moved physically out of this world between the end and the beginning, into this new timeline. And I'm told exactly how it's going to happen. And I'll talk about that at another time. But what this message said was, you have reached a point in your personal and spiritual growth where you might want to consider adopting a spiritual name. And I heard the message and I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't mean anything to me. And I finished the message. I went on with my evening. This was late afternoon. I went and had my dinner. And as I was doing the dishes, it popped back in my mind. And this is how it works. If I'm meant to have some sort of inspiration or an action about something I heard, it'll pop back into my awareness. And this is exactly what it did. This was within an hour later after the reading. I started to think about a spiritual name. I'm like, well, why would I do that? I mean, what does that actually mean? I have no idea. So I finished the dishes, and this was so interesting how this happened. I finished the dishes and I was getting ready to sit. And what I do in the evening after I wash the dishes is I sit in my glider by my back window, even though it's dark now because it's winter time. I can still see the outlines of the trees, and I just sit and look outside for up to an hour before I sit down and watch a little TV and then go to bed. This is my routine. I sit in this chair and what I do is I turn on my television and I put on my streaming music app, which is through my Bose sound system. So I don't use a radio or my phone. I use my TV to listen to music. So I opened the app. I went and turned off the light because I keep it dark in the house so the light outside illuminates the trees. If I have the ambient light in the house, I can't see outside as well. So I turn off all the lights and I turn on the music. And as I was walking past my television to go to my chair, there was a Fleetwood Mac song on, and the album cover was displayed, and the name of the album, which was Belladonna. It's one of my favorite albums, actually. Fleetwood Mac's one of my favorite groups. I'm a 70s girl, the best music era ever, arguably, anyway. So I see the name Belladonna, but before I even sit in my chair, which was 2 steps away, I knew that could that be a spiritual name? And I started to think, Belladonna, okay, this is weird because I had a bridal store several years ago with partners that we called Belladonna because the primary owner, her name was Donna. So we named our bridal store Belladonna. And so of course I'm like, okay, is Belladonna my spiritual name? And then I'm sitting down and I'm kind of giggling to myself. And I said, wait a minute, I think Belladonna is a poisonous plant. So I'm sitting in my glider looking out my back door, and probably 6 feet away is my phone on another table. I don't have it near me. I'm not using it. And I just yelled across the room, hey, Google, what is belladonna? And of course, Google told me that it is a poisonous plant in the nightshade family. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't use belladonna as my spiritual name. That's just weird. So, and then I instantly knew, and I said it out loud, or is belladonna meant to lead me to my name? So I said, okay, Google, what is a spiritual name? And Google said, a spiritual name is basically something that you are given, you are blessed with when you have reached a stage in your spiritual growth where you can now take on a new name to match your vibrancy. I got up and read the rest of the description. I was so intrigued. The rest of the description said that the name is given to you by an organization. It's based in Sanskrit and numerology. So you give them a birth date and your name, and they come up with this name for you, and that you carry that name, which now carries the frequency of your body. So now my name, which would no longer be my given name, my birth name, would now match my vibrancy. And by speaking that name or hearing that name, it would continue to ascend me. And so I was intrigued. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So the next morning, because it was late, I went up and I requested a spiritual name. It was very easy. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of simple. I don't have to go to a monk on a mountaintop in Turkey to ask for a spiritual name. You can do it online. So I ordered the name, and I started to think about, and this is so interesting, not long after I'm standing in my living room, and it just occurred to me. I said, the emperor, you're American Indian. You're a Native American. You're my Native American grandfather. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what all the Native American posts was supposed to induce in me was this realization that the emperor, whose identity has been unknown to me for over 3 years now, suddenly I know who he is. Why? And I'm thinking about it. I said out loud, I go, this is you, isn't it? I go, you're always going to be the emperor to me, but you are a Native American grandfather or great grandfather. And I said, I don't know. Are you from this lifetime? Are you from another lifetime? I don't know how DNA works. If I incarnate again, do I have the same DNA? I didn't know. So I said out loud, can you confirm to me that you are my Native American grandfather? And I said, can you do it by sending me another Native American post? Now, at this point, I haven't gotten one in several days. I went on my social media that evening and there it was. It was a post about a grandfather, a Native American grandfather. And I said, okay, I knew this. So the emperor, who was the only unknown member of my soul family, is a Native American grandfather or great grandfather of mine. So this lit up my body in ways that I cannot even describe. And this is how this works. These are activations. So I'm now activated to do my ancestry. So I immediately ordered a DNA kit and it's sitting right next to me as I'm speaking because I'm going to do it tomorrow and send it out tomorrow. Today's Sunday. I'm going to do it on Monday. I got one for my daughter because I was drawn to do that, although she's not ready to do it yet. So I am going to research my heritage. And this started to make me think about my spiritual name. And I'm thinking, okay, the company or the establishment I ordered this name from it's from Sanskrit, which is lovely. It is an ancient language. But the civilization or the culture this is coming from is Eastern Indian. And again, no offense to anyone who's Eastern Indian. I just don't have a cultural connection at all. So I'm thinking, am I going to want this spiritual name that is given to me by a culture that I have no connection to? And is it going to be disrespectful now that I ordered the name to not use it? And I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And I started to think about my possible American Indian or Native American culture or connection. And I watched a show just for a few minutes the other night, which of course helped me to understand what I'm to expect because nothing is accidental. I turned on a show that I watched a long time ago that I lost interest in. I turned it on again. I watched literally a few minutes of it because it got violent and I didn't want to, I just shut it off. I'm like, I can't watch unnecessary violence. It just can't. But before I turned it off, there was a small portion of it where a gentleman was talking to another gentleman. And he said, I did my DNA and I'm mostly a mutt from Europe, like most of us. He said, but I'm 1% Mongolian. And because he was 1% Mongolian, he did this research and found this connection to this person. And that's all he said. It went on and moved to the next scene, which had nothing to do with it. At the time, it didn't resonate at all. I'm like, okay, interesting. But now I'm thinking, okay, there's probably a very tiny thread here. But if there is a thread to an American Native Indian culture in my ancestry, that is the part of my human cultural connection that I want to honor in a name. And I said out loud, I want my spiritual name to be a spirit name. And I want it gifted to me by whatever tribe that my family's from, my grandfather is from. And I was lit up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this explains so much why I love the movie's Avatar, where the Na'vi are basically Indians, tribal, indigenous people. I've always loved, and I even dreamed about being with a Native American man. I romanticized the Native culture. And I have learned so much about the Native Americans and how they were decimated by the white man. There's so much destruction and so much displacement, and it's heartbreaking. But I've always had this tie that I couldn't describe, and this may very well be it. So I'm going to send in my DNA. If there is a modicum, even a percentage of a connection, if I am to change my name to a spiritual name, I'm going to more than likely select or be given a name from the tribe of my ancestors, because that is an earth name. That is tribal people who are connected to the earth, and I am connected to the earth. I am, in essence, an alien tribal person. As a Pleiadian Ahel or Ahel, I have to figure out the pronunciation of that. It is my job to create ecosystems on planets. And I believe that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm so connected to earth and to the trees and to the natural world. And why it was told to me recently that in order for me to remain healthy, it is crucial for me to be in nature every single day. And I intuitively knew this, but now I know at the energetic level that I have arisen or ascended that it is critical or crucial to my overall health. Because what happens when I go outside in nature, and I do it barefoot as often as I can, is I am able to release energies of other people that I take in and I transmute. So, in order for me to drop energetic fields of other people, so I can sleep without being burdened by other people's energies because I'm such a deeply empathetic person, is being in nature helps me drain that energy out of my body. So, it's crucial, especially at this stage, for me to do that. My connection to the natural world has grown exponentially over the last year, to the point where I look outside nearly all the time unless I'm doing something else, where I'm outside as much as I can. And this all makes sense. So this is all coming full circle for me. This Native American connection. My grandfather, the emperor, is revealing himself as a Native American grandfather because I'm meant to take this journey down this ancestral trail into whatever I might find there. And whether or not I adopt a spirit name from the tribe of my ancestors or I keep my name doesn't matter. It's not the point. The point is that I'm meant to take this journey into my ancestry for whatever is waiting for me there. And I believe that I'm meant to understand the wisdom more deeply of our Native people. And that through my work, my vocation, I am meant to speak about that and imbue that into my lifestyle, who I am, my speech, everything. Because we are in an era, a modern era, a beautiful, technically beautiful modern era where we're absolutely disconnected energetically from what truly matters, and that is the earth and the universe. And there are many people on this earth, and Wisdom Keepers is the one I follow and I support, is another person who is working to get the Native American, or I'm sorry, the tribal voice heard. It's not just Native American, it's every indigenous species on the planet who live with the earth, not on the earth, who walk with the earth spirits and don't crush them with their machinery and strip them from their cities. This is part of my journey that I'm meant to discover. And that's why I was receiving the Native American posts and why I had this incredible urge to go out west. I literally would have been there today. I would have been coming home. I would have been coming home today or tomorrow because I was just going for 3 days to go on a tour of this Navajo Valley. And I ended up ordering from a rock store in Taos, New Mexico, what are called shaman stones to help for my meditation because I was guided to do that. I have a connection to the Four Corners, the desert Southwest. I don't know if it's ancestral or cosmic, but I'm led and guided to look into my ancestry to find that if it's there. So that's what I'm starting that journey. So I'm excited to see what it might uncover. But it's not about changing my name. And I decided this morning as I'm laying in bed, I was nervous about not accepting the name that I was given by this organization that comes from Sanskrit. I actually received it yesterday. It's beautiful, but I'm not going to use it. It doesn't belong to me, and I know that in my body. It wasn't about the name. It was about sending me on this journey to find my ancestry. That's what the whole thing That's what the whole thing was about. So whatever I find at the other end of this DNA trail will lead me to where I'm going next and how that expresses itself in my life or in my body or maybe even in my name. I don't know. I'll have to see. So I wanted to share all that with you today. I appreciate you listening so much. I feel like it's time to end this when I start to think it's time for me to go. I feel deeply honored to share these intimate details of my journey. I feel drawn and I feel urged and I feel guided to do it. And that's all that matters. And I just hope that if you're still with me at this late hour, that you can appreciate it too. And thank you so much. Until next time.